Let's talk about the 10 things they don't tell you about giving birth. Hello guys, and welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am the mother of a 1-year-old daughter. Her name is Felicity, and she's currently actually napping. And my husband is Noah, and he's currently at work, but I am a stay-at-home mom, and today I'm going to be talking about the 10 things that they don't tell you about when it comes to giving birth. Okay, first things first, I'm going to do all this laundry while we talk. Second thing, you're probably going to hear some landscaping going on outside. I'm hoping it's not too loud, but if it is, I apologize. There are so many things that when you are giving birth, they don't tell you everything. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, you push and pull and you give birth and it's this beautiful thing and blah blah blah, but they don't tell you all these sensations and things that can happen. Go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing they don't tell you about giving birth is the fact that you will inevitably poop while you are in labor, at least at some point. It's not only during the pushing stage, which a lot of the time it is, don't get me wrong. It's very, very common for you to poop while you're pushing your baby out. But you will have the runs. I'm talking about explosive diarrhea while you were in the earlier stages of labor. And that is something that I had absolutely no idea, is that you would go through this purging process. Some people throw up, but I had no idea if that was a thing. The night I went into labor, so it was around every contraction for me. I was like, I have got to go to the bathroom right now. And I was having some pretty gnarly runs. So that is the first thing that they do not tell you about when it comes to giving birth. The next thing they don't tell you about when it comes to giving birth is the fact that you will have labor shakes. So when you are in the middle of labor, especially as you're getting closer to the end, your hormones will start to shift apparently. This is all the things that I'm learning, or that I learned from being in the hospital. I just remember shaking so hard and being like, what the heck, why am I shaking this bad? And they're like, oh yeah, those are labor shakes. Why didn't no one tell me that I was going to sit there and be shaking like a chihuahua while I'm in the middle of labor? I had no idea that this would be a thing. Next thing that I didn't know that would happen is that you can go from really, really cold to really, really hot to really, really cold all very fast. Or at least that was something that I dealt with. I'm not sure if that happens in every birthing experience, but I just remember I would be laying there and I would be freezing. I would go from being really cold to really hot, and I was like, what the heck? To the point where I would be sweating my butt off. I felt like I was having hot flashes. I was like, what the actual heck? It almost felt like I had a fever because I was going from one extreme to the next, but they were like, no, your temperature's normal and regular and you're fine, you're not sick or anything. This is just what happens. It's just what happens. The next thing that happens is if you throw up, which I remember fighting it so hard pretty much the whole time that I was going through labor. It bothered me to the point where I didn't really want to eat. Granted, at a certain point you don't want to eat anyways, but I just remember my heartburn was so bad. I was like, I just want to sip on some water, maybe a little bit of juice, but I had absolutely no desire for food. I brought food because I was thinking that I would want food, but I eventually was like, my heartburn is just so horrible right now that I have absolutely no desire to eat. I actually was throwing up so hard that I pushed Felicity's head out of me while I was pushing her out. So they say that throwing up is the equivalent of having 3 contractions. That's how forceful it kind of is on your body, but it's beneficial. So if you feel like you're going to throw up and you are either okay with it, or I wouldn't say force it, but if you do feel like you're going to be sick, it kind of does help. Whenever I started throwing up, her head popped right out within throwing up 2 or 3 times. But it helps. The next thing is something that I didn't even think that I would be talking about. but it's the epidural. So I remember I was in labor for a total of 22 hours. So by the time I had gotten to the hospital, I had already been in labor for a couple of hours. My contractions were every other minute, lasting a minute, and that lasted for 6 hours before I decided to get an epidural. Because by the time I decided to get it, I was only dilated to 4 centimeters, which is how far along I was dilated whenever I went into the hospital. So my nurse and my midwife were all saying like, maybe you should really entertain the idea of getting an epidural just so that you can get some sleep, because it was 6 o'clock in the morning and my contractions were coming so fast that they weren't doing anything, and they were like, maybe you can try to relax and maybe get some sleep and maybe that will help progress your labor. I didn't want an epidural. I didn't want to have any medicine whatsoever, but I remember whenever I got the epidural, maybe within like a couple of minutes, just feeling everything, just like the epidural just like hits you, and it hits you like a brick wall. Like it is like boom, the epidural is kicked in, and it literally makes you feel like you cannot move your legs. Like my left leg, I actually still had some functionality to it. I was still able to move it a little bit, but my right leg, it literally felt like my leg was an elephant leg. Like my leg felt so huge and just like, it was so numb. It didn't matter how hard I tried to think to tell my brain like, oh, you should move my leg. My leg would not move. And it literally was like tingly all up and down it. Again, this leg I can move. Like this leg, it was kind of numb, but not that bad. But this leg was like, oh my gosh, it feels like my leg is almost gonna fall off because it's just so tingly right now. I remember I actually would have Noah move my leg around for me, because if I didn't have him do that, then I couldn't move my leg, and my leg would get so uncomfortable and it felt like I needed blood to flow through it. And like the closest thing that I can equate it to is whenever you fall asleep and your arm is completely numb, like you have no blood flow in your arm at all, and you literally have to grab your other arm and like move your arm, like that same sensation of like I cannot move my arm right now. That is how it feels to have an epidural. I could still feel stuff, but I just wasn't feeling the pain, whereas in my right leg, I was like, I can't feel anything. I feel like I have an elephant leg. It feels so strange. So I don't think I'm gonna get an epidural in the next pregnancy that I end up having, because I really did not like that sensation at all. And then I also didn't like that I couldn't eat after I had it. I don't think I'm gonna have an epidural in the next pregnancy that I end up having, because that was just weird. Okay, the next thing that they don't tell you about giving birth to a baby is the fact that when you have to push, that sensation to push. Random thing, is the dress that I gave birth to Felicity. That sensation to push is like the most uncontrollable thing in the whole entire world. Like I remember I was laying there, because at this point I had my epidural, and I had gotten a couple of hours of sleep because I was able to relax and rest or whatever. But I remember being like, it literally feels like a bowling ball is trying to come out of my butt right now. I mean, because it's a skull, it's a head. But I do remember thinking like, this is the most pressure I felt in my entire life. Like I wouldn't even call it pain. Like it literally was just, it was pressure. That's the only way that I can explain it. It was like this thing was telling me, hey, I need to come out, and I need to come out like now. My nurse came in at one point and I was like, I think I need to push like here very soon. Like, I'm feeling this deep sensation of like needing to go poop. And it literally felt like she was going to come out of my butt. I don't know if that's normal, but it literally felt like she was going to come out of my butt. And it felt like I literally just needed to poop out a bowling ball. Like, that's the only thing I can think. It was like, I need a watermelon to come in. It's like a watermelon's trying to come out of me. Like, it just, that sensation is the most, like, aggressive, like, in your face, I need to push now sensation ever. It was like, okay, we're ready, let's go. The next thing that they do not tell you about giving birth, whenever you go to the bathroom after you've pushed the baby out and everything, But like for some people, it's like really actually scary to go to the bathroom because you're like, wait, I can't engage in using those muscles again. Like I just used those muscles to push the baby out. Isn't everything going to like fall out of me? And of course, logically, when you think about it, no, not everything's gonna fall out of you. That's physically impossible for you to be able to like poop your uterus or like your colon out. Like it's just not going to happen. But I remember just sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And then they tried to get me to sit up. Well, because I had the epidural, I didn't have like my full bearings on my legs. Like I couldn't put my full weight on my legs. And because of that, it actually made me lightheaded. Like I actually was like, no, I need to sit back on the bed and I need to do this quickly. I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So I had to like go sit back down on the bed after giving birth, or after trying to go to the bathroom after I'd given birth. They were like, okay, maybe you can sit on this bedpan and maybe you can go in here. And I remember sitting there on the bedpan and it was like, I was so hyper aware of the fact that like I was sitting in this bed, I'm sitting on the bedpan and I'm sitting here thinking like, this is not a toilet, like this is not a bathroom, I can't just relax everything, like this is super weird. And it wasn't even, like some people after they've had an epidural, and I think this may have played a little bit of a part into it, but it for me was more so a mental blocker of like, I knew that I had to pee, I knew that I could pee, but the idea of like, I'm sitting on a bedpan, this lady is watching me while I'm going to the bathroom, Noah's watching me while I'm trying to go to the bathroom, and it's like, I can't go to the potty while you guys are staring at me and I'm sitting in bed. So this is all very weird, and I just remember being like, okay, I can't do it. So they had to stick a catheter in me, and at this point it wasn't numb anymore, and I was also super, super swollen, which we'll talk about swelling here in a second. But I remember them sticking the catheter back inside of me, and I was like, oh my god, this hurts so bad. Please don't do that again. And when we did the catheter, like the whole bag was full, like it filled up so fast, but it was just because of the fact that I was like, I cannot go pee while I'm sitting on a bedpan, and I can't make it to the bathroom because it makes me dizzy. So this is weird. You don't even understand what I mean by swelling. The swelling that happens down in your lady bits after you've given birth to a baby is the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life. I'm talking like the little guy that is in Monsters Inc. whose lips are swollen, like Kylie Jenner's lip challenge, just like gone wrong. Like that swelling, but down here. Ninth thing they don't tell you about giving birth is the fact that your tailbone can move and it can stay moved for a while. So there is a hormone in your body called relaxin that relaxes pretty much everything down here in your pelvis so that your baby can have the room to actually come out. But because of that, pelvis can move in certain ways, and because it takes a while for the relaxin to leave your body, it can continue to move. The thing that hurt me the most after I gave birth was the fact that my tailbone was like out of place. But I remember going to the chiropractor a few days later, and she adjusted my tailbone because I mentioned to her like it hurt so bad. And as soon as she adjusted it, it was like the biggest relief ever, and I could actually walk again. And I wanted to like cry because of the fact that it felt so much better because it was hurting so bad. Which leads me to my last point, which is baby blues is a thing and you will cry over everything. Whenever we were leaving the hospital, from the moment that I like got into the little like wheelchair to be wheeled down all the way down to the car, the entire drive home, I was literally just sitting there sobbing. That was the most emotional drive home I think I've ever had in my entire life. I kind of wish that they prepared me a little bit more for it. They were like, oh, you're probably gonna have some like sadness and stuff. But I cried over everything after I gave birth. So yeah, that's the 10 things that I could think of that they didn't tell me before I gave birth. If you have any things that you can think of, listen in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for watching me do all my laundry. Bye, guys.